Today on the Scaly Fixes Things, we take one of these out of this and service it. What do you think of that, Kenny? Yay! Right, here we go. Hold this here, let me pull the loop of wire through, push the BAKELITE cover back in. This should now just wiggle out and round, and without disassembling any more of Kenny, we have the motor unit to look at. Here's one I had earlier. Right, the magic of the centrifugal speed control. See, there's a little centrifugal thing there, springs it open. As you turn your speed knob up, so it moves further away, and as the motor speeds up, that centrifuge moves that down till it hits this, and then it cuts the contacts open and shut, which basically that's how it adjusts your speed. It's the gap between there. If your Kenwood's running at the wrong speed, it should be 60 revolutions a minute or 1 per second of the planet hub on minimum, and between 180 and 200 on maximum. You adjust these two screws here. Obviously what they do is they move this plate in and out slightly for your minimum speed. So that should be about 60 revolutions. What I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how that works on Kenny's motor, which I've plugged back in. Don't try this at home. So we balance the camera on the cup of tea, we hold on to the motor because it will have torque, and we turn it on. Watch the contacts here. No, that's not very useful. Here, as I turn the speed up and down, you'll see the way they follow the governor. Now, there's no load or pulleys or anything on this motor, so it's going to run strangely at slow, but here goes. As it slowed down, it took a little while for the contacts to come back. Just do that. Some cheaper mixers have a resistance controller. You turn the mixer on, but the more load you put in, the slower it runs. You have to compensate by turning the knob up. Kenwood chose the more expensive centrifugal because it keeps the motor running at the same speed regardless of the load. If I take the cover off so that we only have the motor running, and a pulley in there, you'll hear it pulse as the contacts open and close. Hear that? Dun, 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 dun. That is correct running of the motor, that is not a fault. Now, show you what I mean by the fact it will always run at the same speed. The cover on that engages the gearbox, which is more load. I'll put this on to number 1, and then when I remove the cover, if you listen carefully, the note from the motor won't change. Like that. Never put the cover back on when it is running, you can remove it. Let's try number 3. Number 6. The only time it doesn't work is when the motor's on full power, where it will work faster if it's running without the gearbox, because the centrifugal controller has opened as far as it can and the motor's just basically across the mains. So I'll just show you that. So apart from the very full speed, the rest of the time the mixer will actually continue to mix at the speed it's supposed to, regardless of how much food you've got in the bowl or how much you are chopping. And that is why Kenwood chose the more expensive centrifugal controller. Anyway, that's the centrifugal control on this motor, A701A. Right, it's looking inside the top bearing, it's phosphor bronze bearing itself, and this section here retains a felt pad on which you want to put a few drops, not oversaturate, of a decent oil. By decent oil, model train oil, sewing machine oil, something with decent viscosity, not 3-in-1, not WD-40. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to use quite a wide slotted screwdriver here, and it would help if I wasn't looking in the viewfinder at the time. Okay, I'm just going to hope this is aimed right and actually watch what I'm doing this time. Put this down here on these slots. Let's see, don't want too much. Down the bottom here. No, go in the slot. There we go, look, it's soaking in. Wipe the excess off in a minute. Also, obviously, if I wasn't holding a camera in my other hand, this would be a lot easier. Right, one moment. Totally soaks everything here. But just go around the metal quickly. Take the excess off. Okay, I know you can't see anything, but so we come back to this. Have a look at the pad. Once it begun to soak up oil, it's normally quite good. So you keep your eyes on it ready. Here we go. Is that going in? Yep. Oh look. Got to hold the screwdriver in my mouth. There we go. See a bit, you can actually see that one at 4 o'clock. Okay, so I'll put a drop on there. There we go. You should be able to see it. See there? Soaking. Let's try the 2 o'clock one. I'm beginning to think it's like about 12 at night here. Come on, in you go. No, you didn't get to see that. Oh, you get to see it sort of soaking in there. There it goes. A slight movement. I think my phone's going to focus any more than that. Drop on there, and it soaks. Probably about enough. Okay, let's put another one just down there. It's working right well actually. The last thing I'm going to do, if I wipe the screwdriver off, is maybe just put a little bit just on the shaft here. Don't really need a lot. Don't scratch the bearing. The other bearing, a little more tricky, is put a screwdriver in my mouth again.
so you won't hear very well, it's in the bottom, of course, of the motor. So,
pretty much the same as that, just a little more fiddly to get to. Give it a quick clean off, a bit of cloth through the middle, then get some oil on the felt pad, and reassemble the motor. And I'll show you that in stages. Right, if you check under here, having to put it all back in, you'll see there's some clean marks and some dirty marks. Obviously the clean marks are where this section's been, and you need to make sure you line it up. Well, that day I ran out of time and needed to get Kenny back together, so we continue on the spare motor. Now, one of the things you'll need to do is to put your finger, just hold this fan at the back here whilst you wiggle the armature and just get it onto the shaft, and then don't forget to do up the BA Allen key there, or screw. Having got that on, back to the motor. Right, so having lined up the coil with either the marks you've made or finding the clean dark sections, you then put this top on here. And this thing can pivot very slightly, and the reason is so that you can line up the bearings so the armature spins freely. Put these 3 screws in and then do them all up just slightly tight and see if the armature spins freely. It probably won't, so do one up a little bit, try it. If not, undo it and try the next. Keep going for the third. One of them, when you do it up, you'll find that it will allow the armature to spin. It's a bit of a balancing act. Once you've got the armature free, then do up all 3 screws, equal amount of turns. Check again, it should spin this freely. Then you put this pulley back on, you put the round drift in, and this little collar you push back over, which is always extremely stiff. Having done that, that leaves the carbon brushes. So if they're under 9.5mm, and quite frankly these are, but I'm just using these to show you. So if they go back in here, they are rectangular, so they only go in one of 2 ways. It'd be marvellous if this focuses. Oh, there we go. And then while it's focusing, take the lid and just put that on the top, which I know you can't see very easily, but screw it in. Obviously, flick it over. Try and show you that slightly better. I can use my other hand this time. So, rectangular hole, rectangular brush, just line it up, there we go, or not. Push the whole thing in, make sure you catch that over the top and put it in. Start it off, you don't need to tighten these hard, just till it stops, and then a little tweak and you're done. So that's carbon brushes in, and that is the motor unit complete. Obviously check again that it's still freely moving, and if so, you're ready to put it back in the Kenwood, and I'll show you that with a series of pictures. It's basically just the reverse of taking it out. having put this plate on, this should be central, and it's very unlikely, but it isn't. But if for some reason it is not central, take this plate and take the top cover off again. You'll see around the crown inside here there are 3 nuts and bolts. You just alter them slightly to move the motor in the direction it needs to go. But generally you won't need to do that, it will just end up in the middle. Having done that, turn the speed control on to check the motor's functioning okay, and if that's okay, then up to the top speed. Don't forget that strange it's correct operation, it's the contacts opening and closing. If all's well there, we haven't really touched the gearbox, but just put the cover back on again, turn it on, turn out the full. That should pretty much be that. You now have your serviced, oiled, working Kenwood.